I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are talking about an awesome book that just turns the pages itself. It is that interesting. It is called Black Orchid. It is set in New England, and if you ask me, New England is the perfect place to set any novel because it's beautiful, romantic, and yet haunted as well, and also historical. Perfect setting for this story, Black Orchid. There's a mysterious death going on, and people in this idyllic slice of New England are dying mysteriously. That's the premise. Joining us right now is the author, Laura Burke, and we are delighted to have her as a guest today on Spotlight. Thank you so much for joining us here, Laura.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Crawford.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I got to tell you, Watch Hill is one of my favorite places on earth. When I saw it was set in Watch Hill, I was thrilled to read it. Tell me, how are you familiar with Watch Hill? Did you used to live in New England or travel to New England or what?
Well, I've traveled to New England, but the way I picked out Watch Hill, and you're going to laugh at this, I put a map up on the wall and I threw a dart and it landed on Watch Hill. So that's how the book started.
Wow. Well, that's perfect. I mean, Watch Hill, for the folks at home who might not know about it, is 1 square mile. It's a tiny town. It's perfect, picturesque New England. Overlooking the sea, Taylor Swift has a huge house. Another house overlooking the sea is Conan O'Brien. It's a spectacular place, but the unthinkable happens there in your book, in Black Orchid. Tell the folks at home what your book is about.
Well, this gentleman wants to get away from society, basically, and he ends up moving to Watch Hill. And he becomes very good friends with the storekeeper there, and he finds pieces of driftwood, which he carves little animals out of, and he sells them to her. Hmm. And then all of a sudden, one night when he was walking on the beach, he found a black orchid. And he was so impressed with this black orchid that he brought it home. He called the storekeeper to come over to see it, and it's pouring down rain. But she comes and she had a small cut on her hand. And when she started handling the black orchid, this sap or this substance ended up in her wound, and she died. And then, as mysteriously as that happened, other people were finding black orchids on the beach, and they started dying also. And there was no premise as to why or how these black orchids were causing these people to die. And I didn't know either until I got to the end of the book.
It's a wonderful premise. I love it. I have a couple of questions. Is there such a thing as a black orchid?
Yes, there is. And I researched it, and they are very, very rare. They're very hard to find, and they're very hard to raise. But there is such a thing as a black orchid.
Okay. And now I know you found the town by throwing a dart and it landed on Watch Hill. Have you been up to Watch Hill to visit since you threw that dart?
No, because I was afraid I'd find a black orchid.
Exactly. You wouldn't want to do that. That's for sure. Well, I think you're due a trip because it's a beautiful place. You wouldn't want to go there now. It's a little chilly right now, but it's a beautiful place.
Oh, I'm sure.
Summer and the fall as well. What was it like writing this book for you?
Well, because of all the books I've written, I think that was my favorite. And it took me like 40 days to write it. I loved it because it fascinated me so as the story unfolded. All of my novels, and I have 13, I never know who the killer is until the end of the book. I never have it laid out until I get to the end. And with Black Orchid, I was just amazed at what was happening all through the book, and I couldn't stop writing because it just fell into place. Every page fell into rhythm.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's lovely to get into that zone where you're writing and you're living it, you're experiencing it. It's kind of a world you sometimes don't want to leave, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I was saying to Laura before the interview started that this book, for the folks at home, reminds me a lot of Alice Hoffman's work. She's written Practical Magic and At Risk and a number of other books that are set in New England that are delightful to read as well. Laura's got a website. It is authorlauraburke.com, authorlauraburke.com, and that's where you can see all of her books. Tell me a little bit about when you started writing.
I started writing about 10 years ago, and I have a full-time job. I work Monday through Friday. I have my own business, and I write on the weekends. Some days I just don't feel like writing, and then other days I can get up at 5 o'clock and start pumping out pages, and I can't stop. It depends upon what kind of a day it is and what kind of zone I'm in.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, do you have a favorite book that you've written?
Between Black Orchid and Rendezvous Key, I think those are my two top favorites.
Okay. And you get an idea first. Tell me how the process works for you. I know you say you don't have the killer or the murderer in mind until the very end, but the premise of a mysterious flower on the beach, how does that all come to you?
I really don't know. Like I have one that just came out, and it's called The Toy Store Murders. And it'll be out probably by the end of January. And then now I'm writing the another one, which is part of this Jolene series that I've just started, and it's called The Duffel Bag Murders. But the way that came about is that on the news, somebody said they found a body in a duffel bag. And I said, hey, what a great idea. And I started writing about the duffel bag murders. The toy store, I had a friend, very good friend, who ran a bookstore and was shot in a robbery. And the reason the guy was robbing the place was he was robbing the store for toys for his son. And I that just kept going through my mind, a toy store murders. How many people would think of somebody going into a store and killing an owner of a toy store, and that just, I hear things on the news, or I see things in the paper, or somebody says, hey, Laura, did you know so-and-so? That would make a great book. And then I think about it and it starts progressing. And that's how I start writing.
Well, wonderful. Well, that method seems to be working. A lot of your books are about murder.
All of them.
You're becoming a regular Agatha Christie there. Tell me a little bit about why you like to write about murder.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I have a hidden agenda. When I give lectures and speak to other people, groups, the way I introduce myself is I say, I'm Laura Burke and I kill people for a living, and everybody, the whole room just gets real silent.
Right.
I love telling stories. And it seems that, well, now on the news, I mean, that's all you hear about. But back when I first started writing, mystery and murder seemed to go together.
Yeah.
And that's when I started writing. And I've always loved mysteries. So that's my premise.
Yeah. And as James Patterson says, you need to raise the stakes to keep the audience involved, the reader involved. And there really is nothing more powerful than a murder or a death or a mystery. So all of those ingredients do work together. Well, it's a wonderful book. It's called Black Orchid. It's available online. Laura's website is on your screen right now. You can order it there or through Amazon, download it on Kindle. And it's a wonderful read. I think you'll find it very, very enjoyable. It'll bring you to a wonderful locale as well. Like I said, a pristine, idyllic village in New England. Laura Burke, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time. on Spotlight.